the 76ers included here, Harris. What are you expecting about Philadelphia here as we go throughout the coming months?
Well, for me, it begins and ends with LeBron James. He is still their primary target, and they are going to do, like we mentioned before in his rumor section, they are going to do whatever it takes to get LeBron James on this team. Now, the most interesting part that you need to point at is the 76ers cap space. They have $30 million in cap space next year. Now, that gives them enough money to sign Paul George to a max contract, who, with the amount of years that he's played in the NBA and also his individual accomplishments, gives him a $30 million a year max contract. LeBron requires $35 million a year for his max contract. So obviously the 76ers are not there in terms of cap space. They would have to pay a ton of money in the luxury tax, and with how many contracts they have coming up the next couple of years with Embiid and Simmons, I don't think that the 76ers want to get into luxury tax problems now. So if they get LeBron, you can kiss JJ Redick goodbye, that's for sure. But in terms of the 76ers wanting LeBron,
so that's the surface of our first rumor here. Yeah,
exactly.
So 3 heads on this, and yeah, you can point to the Ben Simmons, LeBron James debate and how they would mesh together. But in terms of financials, and that's kind of the perspective you just took there, Harris, it could make sense, but it'll be difficult.
It could make sense. They're going to have to make a couple moves. They would have to get rid of Jared Bayless's expiring contract, maybe attach a pick to him so someone will take his salary. They would have to let go of JJ Redick altogether. He got paid a ridiculous contract this past summer, like a 1-year, $20+ million deal. That's not going to happen. They would have to kind of excuse themselves from Amir Johnson as well, which isn't really surprising. And they maybe would have to move one of their young pieces, maybe move a Dario Saric just to be able to get that last bit of cash. But look, the lineup with LeBron is still ridiculous. Simmons, Covington, LeBron, Saric, and Embiid. I have Saric included on there because I think they'll find a way to keep him. He's turned into a really nice NBA player the past 2 seasons. So they're going to do anything they possibly can to get LeBron on this team. I just worry that they're not going to have a bench afterwards. And as we saw with the Celtics and the 76ers series, look, LeBron is obviously incredible. He's the best player in the NBA right now. But we saw the 76ers get exposed with their young talent and their complete lack of bench, especially going up against Boston next year with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward coming back, plus another first-round pick. I wonder if they still have enough to beat the Celtics simply with the lack of bench that they're going to have next year.
All right, let's go to rumor number 2 here, Harris. 76ers perhaps going for Paul George. Would he be the consolation prize if they miss out on LeBron?
Yes, he would. But you also got to be careful if you're the 76ers, because it all comes down to order. Is Paul George going to try to sign somewhere before LeBron, or is he going to wait for LeBron? Now, we saw, obviously, when LeBron was coming back to Cleveland, the entire NBA waited for LeBron to make his decision. Now, I expect that to happen again, but I wonder if Paul George is kind of fed up with being number 2 all the time. He was number 2 to LeBron James in the Eastern Conference for his entire time with the Pacers. He's number 2 with Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. I wonder if he wants to be treated like number 1 and sign a deal with the Lakers or the 76ers right away. So if you're the 76ers, you might miss out on Paul George by going after LeBron, and you still might miss out on LeBron with Paul George already gone. So that's worst case scenario, but the 76ers are going to go after Paul George if they do not get LeBron. Now, the real question is Paul George just going to follow LeBron wherever he goes? Is George going to want to come to the Sixers if LeBron goes to the Lakers? There's a lot of dominoes that need to fall in order for us to really know what's going to go on. But as of right now, yes, the 76ers do still want Paul George and will make a run for him if they can't get LeBron.
Well, let me ask you this, and you mentioned the dominoes analogy here. LeBron James's decision will be that first domino in the entire NBA offseason, especially in terms of free agency.
Yeah,
right?
I think you're right on that.
All right, so that will kind of set the tone for the rest of the actions that are to come.
And also, this is such a bold prediction. Do not throw out the possibility that the 76ers try to make a move for both LeBron and Paul George and move some other pieces around. Maybe they trade away Robert Covington and they obviously get rid of Jared Bayless and move a couple contracts as well to try to bring them both in. These 76ers plan to be unbelievably aggressive this offseason. They see a chance to attack. They see an Eastern Conference that is vulnerable. They see a 2-horse race next year for the East between them and the Celtics, especially with the Raptors firing Dwayne Casey. So expect rumors about the 76ers trying to get both LeBron and Paul George, just like the Lakers are trying to do.
All right, we certainly expect the Sixers to be active this offseason. Let's get to rumor number 3. Are they going to draft Kevin Knox, Harris?
So Kevin Knox would be an interesting fit for the 76ers. I'm going to give this one 2 heads strictly because I think he's going to be on the board at 10. And if you're the 76ers and you kind of see what's going on with the contracts that are being given out, I think Kevin Knox would be an interesting player to draft and then start to dangle to some teams to do a sign and trade with LeBron or Paul George, maybe with the Thunder, obviously with the Cavs. So if you're the 76ers, you have that number 10 pick. You are not just picking that player to be like, oh, this is what he's going to project out to be over the next 5 years. You're taking that player to see if you can swing him for another star this offseason. So Kevin Knox would be a really good pick to kind of do that with. He's versatile. He's long. He can play defense. I think he's going to be a better three-point shooter in the NBA than he is in college. I just think he's going to get more open looks. So he would be a good fit in general with the 76ers if they draft him and keep him. But in terms of a sign-and trade with maybe LeBron or Paul George or even another player, I think Kevin Knox would be the center of the deal leaving the 76ers.
All right, let's get to rumor number 4 about the Sixers. Brett Brown extension. What do you think of that?
We're going to give this one 3 heads. This is coming from GM Brian Colangelo, who has talked about multiple times he wanted to give Brett Brown a chance to coach a legitimately talented roster. They gave him the chance, and he performed well. He got the team to the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, a disappointing performance against the Celtics in round 2, but it just you got to keep Brett Brown at this point. The players really like him. They all kind of had this attitude of we went through all of that tanking and now we're here. So they all kind of have that, us against the world mentality.
What's the point in turnover at this point?
Exactly, and Brett Brown's a big part of that. And I think that you have a lot of worries as a coach if you were hired by a previous GM. Obviously, we saw the Knicks get rid of Hornacek. Obviously, he was hired by Phil Jackson. Now we see the same situation here. Brett Brown was hired by GM Sam Hinkie. New GM coming in. Is his job up in the air? Apparently, they're going to give him an extension. Also, I'm happy for him because whenever I get to hear his Maine accent, it's great. I love Brett Brown's accent, especially when he's talking about going against the Celtics and he's from Maine. I love it. I think it's a great move to keep him around.
All right, let's get to the next rumor on the list for the Sixers. TJ McConnell coming back. Harris, what's the likelihood of this?
Giving this one 4 heads. He is indeed going to come back. The Sixers are reportedly going to pick up his team option. Easy pick for them. He's only going to make $1.6 million next season. He's not going to hurt the cap at all, and he was fantastic in the Boston series, even though they lost. He is going to be their backup point guard next season. I also wonder if he's going to have a bigger role as a shooter next year with J.J. Redick most likely on his way out. So good pickup, or I guess not pickup, just good move by the Sixers keeping him on the team. He's a good bench player.
All right, and then what's the deal here with Jonah Bolden coming on over?
So I mentioned how the Sixers are going to have to get rid of a lot of their bench, which means that they're going to try to bring in a lot of their international players. And the next one to come over is Jonah Bolden, the former player from UCLA, who they stashed in Israel. He's currently playing for Maccabi Tel Aviv. Had a good season with them, and now there's an expectation that he's going to be on the Sixers next season. He's a modern-day big man. He's about 6'9", 6'10", can shoot from the outside, rebound, defend 2 positions. Good player, was taken 36 overall last year. They just didn't really have a spot for him on the roster this year, but now he comes over. Will be on a cheap contract. Will be a good bench player for them going forward. Would be a nice addition to a bench that's certainly going to need talent and length on it next year.
The latest rumors across the Philadelphia 76ers.